almost wake up with the shakes. It really, really helps. Put my hands up to it. I'm literally an all or nothing person. I live a very, very structured lifestyle. And I still manage my Hashimoto's. It's about balancing life, but also living with an autoimmune disease. And this video is for anyone who thinks that they cannot train, eat healthy, but also have an autoimmune disease and they don't know how they should get on. So let's just talk about myself, because I'm not a doctor. I'm just talking about my experience to share it, to make sure that you don't feel alone. So generally I train 5 weight sessions a week. And at this moment in time, I do cardio 7 days a week. Cardio isn't necessary, but for me, with my anxiety, it really helps. Getting me moving in first thing in the morning, exerting that energy, I almost wake up with the shakes. It really, really helps. So I currently do 3 lower days and 2 upper days. And my focus is definitely the hypertrophy bodybuilding. So applying progressive overload, all of that jazz is incorporated in my training. So when I am training in my off season, it's really important for me to make sure that I'm fueling myself correctly and that I am taking my recovery seriously. I think a lot of us, when we're dieting, we're more likely to look after our recovery a little bit more, go for those sports massages, go for the saunas, rest a bit more. And I will put my hands up to it. I'm literally an all or nothing person, but I think it's really, really important that you take into account that you also need to look after your recovery. So things I've implemented this off season is sauna minimum 3 times a week. I haven't found a sports massage therapist yet where I'm living, but I will start incorporating that, and I stretch 6 out of 7 nights a week. I used to be a dancer, so I'm pretty good with my stretching, but I was getting lazy, and I could even find myself, if I couldn't sit cross-legged more than 10 minutes, and I knew that it was my inflexibility, bearing in mind I'm dyslexic, right? So I train a lot, but I also appreciate that I have Hashimoto's, which means that I struggle with fatigue. So I have to make sure I get my 8 hours of sleep minimum, which is a lot for some people or not a lot for other people. But for me, I found it's the sweet spot. I generally find that I try to stay within a sleeping window of an hour waking up and an hour going to bed. And all of this has really helped. So I know I do struggle with chronic fatigue. I hit burnout quite regularly. I talk about this on my TikTok quite a lot, but I do go all in with whatever I'm doing. And I know for me, taking my recovery seriously is super important. So I'm making sure I'm getting my sleep. I'm making sure I'm going to the sauna. I'm making sure I'm stretching. All of this encompasses the recovery, but there's also the mental recovery from training so much. So making sure that I am reading. I had a really, really, really good therapist about a year ago, 2 years ago. And she said to me, Jasmine, you can't just go to the gym when you're stressed out or when you want to rest. And I was like, oh, you've got a point. And she was like, you need to find something else. And this is when I started my book talk. Okay. Jasmine loves to read, if you want to look at it. But I read 177 books in 2024. I am dyslexic, so I do struggle to read a normal book. So this is when I found my Kindle, and they have a dyslexic font. But bar that, I have learned that there's a push and a pull mechanism, especially when it comes to fitness and Hashimoto's. So I am still getting better at it. I can always push on. I literally will get blindsided. And this is something I talk to clients about. If you feel those symptoms of fatigue, brain fog, you're struggling to get through your day, you're struggling with that cognitive function, then you know that we might need to take a step back. And that's when, for example, 2 weeks ago, my digestion went off, my sleep went off. I was waking up at 3 a.m. Message coach, message boss, and he was like, you are out of the gym this weekend. So I took 2 days. He let me do cardio and steps. I would literally go mad if I couldn't do those 2 and do nothing. Well, actually, to be fair, I wouldn't, because my body would need it, but let's not go there. And I've learned that sometimes it's not just pushing through, especially when you have Hashimoto's. You need to take that step back, because we need a lot more recovery. Now, let's go on to nutrition. Nutrition for someone with Hashimoto's is person dependent. So what works for me might not work for you. I have to make that very, very clear. For me, I have found a whole food diet for the last 8-9 years has worked extremely well. I personally choose not to eat meat. I only eat fish, but I eat very minimal processed. So I'll eat cream of rice, protein powder, or oatmeal, but generally they're very clean ingredients. I don't consume gluten. I don't consume dairy. I generally don't consume much processed. And that makes me feel my best. I know that when I'm eating whole foods, I feel the best cognitively, but I also feel like my body can digest it. I have a very strong focus on anti-inflammatory foods. For example, turmeric with black pepper. And you've probably heard of that craze. Anti-inflammatory foods will help reduce the inflammation in your body. Something that I was taking quite regularly up until recently was ashwagandha. You should cycle on and off that, because otherwise it goes counterintuitive. I also read a new science study that says if you have too much of it, it does the adverse effects, which I think is like definitely something I probably put my hands up to. But I do deal with cravings. I do deal with hormonal shifts. I deal with it all. But it's about making sure that your food, if you don't track food, or if you do, you're picking foods that first of all nourish you but also satisfy you. And that's something I encourage with all clients, to make sure that they have that healthy balance, to make sure that they can be incorporating that. I eat dark chocolate twice a day. I've never been happier in my life, for example. But making sure you're still enjoying your foods, but also realizing that let's incorporate those cruciferous vegetables. I also really have understood in most recent years the importance of blood sugar level. But when you have Hashimoto's, you can feel this sudden, I get a surge of anxiety in the morning, and I think it's because my blood sugar levels are so low, because I hadn't eaten for maybe about 12 to 14 hours at that point. It's really important that women realize that if you are going to weight train, you have to eat before. If you have Hashimoto's or an autoimmune disease, you have to eat before. Some people are not breakfast people, and that's when I would advise getting a shakedown, having something like that. All of that is super important, because it's going to help us regulate our hormones and also really encourage all of those natural hormones to work. We're not mini men. We have to be, educated to realize that we have a completely different body, and we deal with monthly cycles, a lot more hormones. So we have to look after those. I think it's really important when you get a diagnosis or have had one, that your mindset doesn't just go, why is this me? Why have I been diagnosed with this? I fell into that trap. I kept thinking, why have I not got a normal body? For example, when I started a diet a few weeks ago, the first 4 weeks my body didn't move. That's very normal for me, because I have Hashimoto's, and I have an autoimmune disease. So it's completely normal for me not to see any scale weight changes, eat less, do more, and not see anything. But I don't get frustrated. I do, let's not lie. But I just realized that this is me, and this is part of the process, and either I can be upset about it, or I can literally just encourage others to know that you're not alone. I train because I love it. I don't punish my body. I train for my mental well-being. That is the first thing. But after that, the body becomes a byproduct. So I know that if you're navigating any type of condition, any type of chronic condition, just know that you're not alone. You can live a healthy, balanced lifestyle. You can go out to eat. You can live life to the fullest. You can be strong. You can be energetic. You don't have to nap every day for 5 years like I did. There are ways around it. And that's why I started this channel, so that I could try and encourage others to either share their story or drop a comment down below to know that you aren't alone. So let me know what your biggest teaching point of this video would be down below in the comments, and make sure you give my Instagram and TikTok a follow. It's just Jasmine Energy, and make sure also you hit subscribe. But thank you so much for watching.